Go. Yesterday, we finished talking about all of our different kinds of bonds. We have one type of bond where one atom donates an electron and the other atom picks it up. Then they stick together by electrostatic attraction. What bond was that? Oh dear.
That wasn't it could be a hydrogen bond.
That one is electrostatic, but not because we donated. The donation is going to be the ionic bond. Because remember, the term for if I gain or lose an electron, changing the charge of the atom, it's an ion. Ionic is a bond pertaining to ions. All right, how about the bond where we are sharing electrons? Covalent. Remember, sharing is caring and caring is covalent. Then we have the hydrogen bond, which is kind of a hybrid of both. We are initially starting with a molecule covalently bonded, and then because we have an area that's a little bit more negative where all of our electrons are gathered, and an area that's a little bit more positive, that's where we would have that electrostatic attraction. Do I need to go back and review all of that, or are you guys pretty okay with it?
We have our notes.
Pretty okay? Okay. So then we started talking about chemical reactions. I'm not going to have you solve any chemical reactions. I'm not going to put like draw out the chemical reaction that makes coffee. No, I'm not going to do that. This is not a organic chemistry class. All we're interested in here is the terminology. So our chemical equation, we have our reactants, kind of like our ingredients. We compared it yesterday to baking a cake. You have your flour and your sugar and your eggs. Those are your reactants. Put them and apply some heat, and you get your cake, which is the product. And the arrow is determining which way we're going. Are we taking the reactants and making a product? Or are we taking the product and breaking it down into the reactants to find out what made it? We have three different distinct types of reactions. We have our synthesis reaction. This is where we are making something new. Synthesis, the word synthesis, means to create. Like if I say that something is being synthesized within your body, that means that your body can take things and make it for itself. It does not have to be taken from an outside source. We have certain like amino acids that our body can create for itself. So synthesis, to create, is exactly the thing I just said. We take our reactants, take our ingredients, mix them, bippity boppity boop, the magic happens, and we end up with a new, more complex product. Decomposition. So whenever I hear the word decomp, it reminds me of a dead body, right? You hear that in all of the crime shows. Ooh, we could smell the decomp. Yeah. That's in all of my true crime podcasts. That's kind of the giveaway when someone's been dead for a while. The guy says, "Oh yeah, I should go in and smell the decomp." Well, decomposition means to break down. So decomposition is going to be where I take the product, I take the cake, and I break it down into its most basic molecular structures. Now, the synthesis reaction to make something takes energy. If I want to create something, I'll tell you, I was making stuff when we're renovating my significant other's house. We're creating all sorts of stuff, and I'll tell you what, it took a lot of energy. We refinished his cabinets in his kitchen. Holy smokes, did that take a lot of energy. Decomposition, though, when I break stuff apart, when I break bonds apart, it releases energy. I think somebody, I'm not sure if it was in here, it might have been in here yesterday, mentioned the term ATP, adenosine triphosphate. That is where we break a bond and release energy, and that's what gives a muscle fiber energy to contract. So whenever we break a bond, we release energy. When we form a bond, we use energy. And that's why this exchange reaction, this SWIP swap, doesn't have any needs. What we have here is one product. Down here. Ooh, I am stiff and sore. Oops.
And the weather, do that.
The weather is coming in, I think, because my weather prediction body is saying we got storms coming in later today.
You should be a meteorologist.
Right? So here I have my WX, and here I have my YZ. And basically what I've done is I've taken the W, and I've exchanged and connected it to the Y. I've taken the X, exchanged, and connected it to the Z. And here I have two new products. Now, breaking these bonds releases energy. And fortuitously, great word, the amount of energy needed to break these bonds is the exact amount of energy I need to form the new ones. So our synthesis uses energy, decomp reactions release energy, and then in our exchange, we don't have, it's kind of neutral because we're using the energy released from breaking the bonds. So those are our three different types of chemical reactions. Any comments, questions, concerns? Guys, in my TV audience, your chat, I don't have your chat on just like it wasn't on with you guys here in my live studio audience. So if you have any questions, just unmute yourself and let me know. Something last night I was going to tell you. Oh my God, you guys, I totally passed my history test.
Yay!
Oh my goodness. He actually made a comment and complimented my answers.
Woo-hoo!
I know, right? And here's the crazy thing. So this is a 4-week class.
4 weeks.
Yeah, it's a mini-mester, summer mini-mester. That's why this week I have 4 chapters in my one textbook, 5 chapters in one of the other textbooks to read before Thursday.
Holy cow.
I know, right?
That's wonderful. Job.
But hey, and the test, so the entire course, you know, the less points it's worth, the more those points are worth. This entire course is only worth 100 points total. That 90-minute test was 10 points. Yeah. So if you miss one question, suddenly you're going down a letter grade. Got my work cut out for me. All right, so as I said, this is just a review slide. Synthesis require energy, decomp expends releases energy, and then our exchange have no net energy requirements because we're using what we released. Some of the factors that can influence the rate of these reactions, well, the concentration. This one's kind of a no-duh. The more of a reactant you use, the more dramatic the product's going to be. There's a ton of YouTube videos. In fact, there's an entire Reddit site pretty much dedicated. It's called Instant Regret. Kind of funny. Yes, I go on Reddit. I don't do any of the Twitter. I always call it Tweeter. Twitter. I don't do the Snapchat, Gram. No.
You can just say tweeter is the Canadian way.
Right?
Say.
No, I don't do it. I don't even know what a TikTok is. Apparently this is a new thing now. I don't know. I don't have any idea. No idea at all. But I do love Reddit. And so they've got this site, and you occasionally see like the chemistry teacher who puts too much of something in and explodes in his face. Well, that's because the concentration of the reactant. And of course the temperature. Heat does act as to speed up chemical reactions. That's why whenever any of you were in your high school biology class, you had the little Bunsen burner, right? You had to heat it up. That's going to speed up reactions. Oh, let me move my, you guys need to let me know when I got to move my TV audience here. And some reactions are going to require what we call a catalyst, or something to start it off. The way I look at a catalyst is, if I'm up at the Mobile Lake House and we've decided we're going to cook over an open fire, and so I get the kindling and I get the paper and I get the logs and I get it all staged. I have this beautiful fire, and now I'm just sitting there looking at it. It's not on fire. What do I have to do to it to start it being on fire? Okay, nobody's with me right now.
Can you say it again? I really wasn't.
I have staged this fire. Everything is perfect. It's the best fire that's ever been built in the history of man. But there's no heat coming out of it yet. It's just wood. What do I have to do? I have to ignite it. I need to strike the match and apply it to the fire to make it go. The match is a great example of what a catalyst is. It's something that's going to start a reaction. It's going to initiate the reaction. So that's the definition of a catalyst. Gotta move you guys again. All right, so we do have two different types of compounds, inorganic and organic. And the big difference between these two is inorganic do not contain hydrocarbons. Hydrocarbons are forming the backbone of a lot of these compounds. Organic compounds do have a hydrocarbon chain. A great example, if you want to look it up, and we're going to talk about this quite a bit in our next term with nutrition, organic compounds such as fats and fatty acids. They contain a hydrocarbon chain, and your body will figure out what it wants to do with that fat based on how many double bonds are there. Are there no double bonds? Are there many double bonds? And that's what tells your body, okay, we're going to use this for this job, or we're going to just go ahead and put this in the storage unit. And over quarantine, most of the fats that I was eating, straight to the storage unit. Unfortunately. So our inorganic compounds, some examples are water. Well, obviously, water does not have carbon. Water only has hydrogen and oxygen. Different types of salts like sodium, and acids and bases. This is what's going to determine your pH level. And this is really important because we have only a little sweet spot in our pH, body pH. If we go too acidic or too basic, suddenly multi-system organ failure and we die. Normal for an animal is about 7.4. The normal range is 7.35 to 7.45. If we go out of that range, suddenly we're going to start to see kidney damage, liver damage, all of the above.
Holy cow.
So let's talk a little bit. Now we're just going to do a howdy-do handshake to these different compounds. We're going to go into great detail when we get into nutrition. So water. Water is the most important nutrient. It's the creepy rule of three. Remember how I told you, for some reason, everything in anatomy comes in threes? You can live 3 minutes without breathing, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without eating before you have irreparable damage. Irreparable meaning it can't be reversed. Water really is the basis for everything we know as life. It is the universal solvent. Remember, the solvent was the term we used for the thing we're mixing stuff into. And it's a universal solvent because we can mix literally anything into water. Anything can be mixed into water. And the other thing about water is we have hydrophilic chemicals. Hydro, obviously. And that's when you would tell me what it means. Hydro.
Loves water.
So hydro means water. Phil, to love. Ick, pertaining to. Gotta use that med term. Hydrophilic means I am attracted to water. What about hydrophobic? Yeah, it's right there. I know it's hard to see, but like right there. Water hating. It repels water. Chicken fat is hydrophobic. When you cook the chicken and you put the pan in the sink to soak, yeah, you're not soaking it, you just don't want to do the dishes yet. But it doesn't matter how much you agitate it, that fat is never going to mix in with the water. Water is also a transport medium. It is a major component of your blood. The fluid portion of your blood is primarily water. So it's going to transport cells, which are carrying nutrients and oxygen and carbon dioxide, all over your body. But the other thing that water does, your blood does, is it prevents damage to your cells. When you have blood taken, you are looking at tons of red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and these cells are bouncing against each other as they are being transported throughout your body. I don't want it to be like a big cell mosh pit, have them get injured. So the water in the blood kind of acts like a swimming pool. So if I'm looking, let's say I'm looking at my sister, and I go over and I give her a good kick in the shin. She's gonna go, why did you do that? It's gonna hurt. And I go, you know why. But now if we both get into the swimming pool, and I go and I try and kick her, suddenly it's cushioned. Because if you've ever tried to run in a swimming pool, yeah, if you tried to punch something in a swimming pool, it doesn't work very good. And that's because it's going to cushion. And so it's this fluid property of our blood that helps to protect our cells as they are transporting stuff throughout our body. Another example of water is your urine. Kidneys make urine. Kidneys filter all of your blood. In fact, 25% of all of the blood for every heart pump goes directly to your kidneys. 25%. That's crazy. 99% of everything your kidneys filter out of that blood goes back into your blood. You recycle everything. So when you urinate, that's only 1% of everything that your kidneys filtered out. Your kidneys are the ultimate hoarder of the body. And so we mix it with the residual water that we can go ahead and sacrifice, and then you urinate. Water also has a high heat capacity as well as a high evaporation. What this means is that it's easy to absorb heat, right? You put the pot on the stove, it's not taking a day to start boiling. But it does not evaporate. Now, eventually, yes, but if I put that pot on the stove and I go and start watching a show and I forget about it, in 10 minutes, I'm not going to be looking at an empty pot. It's going to take hours upon hours upon hours to evaporate all of that water. So we can absorb heat very easily, and it doesn't evaporate. And then, of course, lubrication. Tell me some things that are being lubricated by water with you right now. Your joints. You have freely movable joints called synovial joints. This is the oil that keeps the Tin Man moving. Tell me something else. Your eyes. Your tears are made of water, mucus, and some minerals, some electrolytes. Your saliva. Any mucous membrane in your body is being lubricated by water. Salts are the next inorganic compound. Here, the one we use most commonly to do as an example here is sodium chloride. And when they are in an ionic form, meaning that they donated or picked up an electron, they have a charge. They have an electrical charge. And we call these electrolytes. So basically, when you are drinking your Gatorade, or you're drinking the, what's the baby juice one? Thank you. Baby juice. I don't know why that just tickled my brain. Baby juice, the Pedialyte. What you're replenishing is the fluids, obviously the water, but you're also replenishing your electrolytes, specifically sodium. When you are sweating, you're sweating, you're sweating. You're leaking out sodium. That's why your sweat tastes salty. But the problem is that sodium is so super uber important to a whole bunch of different body functions, like transmitting nerve impulses. Sodium is also super important for a lot of other like muscular function. Hypertension, it's meant to regulate your blood pressure. And that's why if you've been out, mowing the lawn, and you've sweated just a copious amount, you come in, this happened to me just a couple weekends ago. I was in the backyard finishing the stupid cabinets. You come in and all of your limbs just feel so heavy. You can't even lift them up. Your brain is telling your body to do stuff and your body's like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. Well, that's because you've depleted the sodium and the messages are literally not getting through. And then sometimes your heart really starts beating fast, and that's because you sweated out all the fluid and your blood thickened up. Now your heart's having to pump much harder to get the blood circulating around your body.
And that cause like fluttering in your heart.
Depending on how dehydrated, absolutely. Absolutely it can. Acids and bases is referring to pH, and pH is very important. Acids and bases are also capable of transmitting electricity when they are ionized in water. Again, we're not going into detail, but when you guys get into probably clinical pathology next semester with Ms. Regalia, that's when you're really going to start looking at acids and bases. And how can we neutralize the pH of the animal's body? There are, as far as acids and bases nutritionally, a lot of things we can do to help neutralize and keep the pH static. Now, there's one diet right now. It's a kind of a fad diet. I'm not getting on the soapbox. I'm going to sit here so I don't get on the soapbox. But we're going to talk about it next term. There's this diet. It drives me insane. Okay, if you are on this diet, please stop. There are safer ways to lose weight. It's called the keto diet.
Thank you. Thank you.
So the keto diet is a repackaged diet from the 80s called the Atkins diet that killed a whole crap load of people.
Short-term gain, long-term issues.
It sent them into multi-system organ failure and they died. So basically what the premise of this diet is that you can eat all the protein you want, but you have to cut out carbohydrates and minimize your fats. The problem is that your body needs fats and carbohydrates in order to utilize other nutrients. So what does it do? It breaks down the stored energy, because I have sugars and fats in storage, breaks that down for me to use. So I am losing weight very quickly. The problem is with that excessive breakdown of stored energy, there's always going to be pollution. Your body is a factory. This is where I find the application of this stuff into our lives really interesting. This is going to take this kind of abstract, boring concept and put it into something that you guys are, kind of at least familiar with. So whenever your body does anything, just like a factory, it releases pollution. Now, generally, my body, it already knows it's going to release pollution, and I'm already set up to deal with that pollution. Right? I can get rid of the pollution. It's when the pollution overwhelms my body, and suddenly my body is like, I don't know what to do with this. There is a pollution from the excessive breakdown of stored energy or stored fat called ketone bodies. Hence the diet's name, keto. Now, ketone bodies are acidic. So they actually say, when you know the diet is working, you have gone into ketoacidosis. See, these are now terms that you can apply to stuff you already know in your real life. Ketoacidosis. Well, that's altering the pH of your body into an acidic state. Guess what, guys? Your organs don't want to be bathed in acid. They don't. Just like I don't want someone to come and pour acid on me, my organs don't want me to pour acid on them. And they'll start to shut down. And your kidneys, oh my gosh, your kidneys are little workhorses, and they will work and work and work and work and work until they go, you know what? No way, I'm out. No way, I'm done. Then you go to full-blown kidney failure and then you die. So,
Question.
yes.
If you're, I remember ages ago, this person who constantly smelled weird. And somebody told me it had to do with ketone bodies. Could be totally wrong.
I don't have an answer for that.
It was a very particular smell that, I don't know what was going on, but
Yeah, I don't know about the smell, I just know about the physiological response.
So ketones actually like fruity smell. I know because my mom took this bottle with something called raspberry ketones, and it was a weight loss thing. And I took them when I was 13, which it was a weight loss thing. And I like overdosed or something. And whenever I burped and like threw up, it just tasted like fruity. Like,
Oh, gross.
like raspberries. And like my heart rate was increased, and I think my body didn't tell me something.
Yeah, I have no doubt. I have no doubt. I'm gonna turn around for a minute because my nose is running and I don't want to pull the mask off. That's a horrible feeling when your nose starts running inside your mask. Sorry.
so horrible.
That was very rude of me. But yeah, so ketone bodies, yes, nutritionally, yes, you can overdose on them. But ketone bodies are also going to accumulate when you have an animal in kidney failure. Cats and their kidneys don't get along on the best of days. Cats and kidney failure are like peanut butter and jelly. So when you have a cat that goes into kidney failure and you do start having those ketones not being removed from the body because the kidneys aren't working, kidneys are over here just pouting away, and everything they're supposed to be removing goes back into circulation, it is a very distinct smell. Now, I don't know if it's the same smell you're talking about. It's not a horribly unpleasant smell, and there are very few people who can smell it. Kidney disease is something, there are very, very few people that can smell ketone bodies.
Is it like a sour thing?
No, so the way that I describe it is it's like fruit that's gone overripe, where it still has that sweet, but it's almost a sickly sweet.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
almost like, think about the last time you forgot there was an apple in the bottom of your fruit bin, and you're like, oh my God, what does that smell? It's not sour milk. It's not sour. It's so sickly sweet. Everyone in here has
It might be
smelled
like a little
overripe fruit.
fermented taste
A
smell.
little bit of a fermentation, a little bit of a bite to it. That's what ketones smell like. And so I'm like you, I'm one of the people that can smell ketones. I could smell them a mile away. When my poor old cat, I had an old cat named Toshiba. He has a Toshiba butt nub. She was a mean old thing. She lived to be, 18 and a half. Thought she was never going to die.
Toshiba's a car, isn't it? Or
Toshiba is just a brand.
a brand.
Here's a little brain break. When I was first going into veterinary medicine, I had just graduated college. I was in my very first job. I got hired out of my externship, and this little kitten came in. Now this is years and years and years ago. Okay, maybe just years and years. Let's not, put too many more years on me. So this is back before they had a lot of the safety features on microwaves that they do have now. What used to be, now none of you will remember this because you're all fetuses, but it used to be if you set your microwave and you opened the door before it had finished cycling through the cooking, if you closed the door, it would automatically start back up again. They now have a safety feature where if you open the door, you have to now push start again. That was not the case. And so what happened with Toshiba was a little child who's old enough to know better, that's why I really don't care for children, put kitten in her house, closed the door, the microwave started up. So she got kind of cooked, and they brought her in, and luckily, because things like their eyes will explode, their organs will explode. Yeah, there's a mental image for you.
Are you trying to make me cry?
No, I'm not. So her ears were terribly, terribly burned. All the subcuticular, right? The superficial. But her eyes were okay. Her organs were fine, and she also had horrible burns on her tail. And they wouldn't authorize us to do anything, so she just sat in the clinic. And what ended up happening is burned tissue forms scar tissue very, very quickly. And it forms what's called a tourniquet, which, as you know, a tourniquet, when you go have blood drawn, they put a tourniquet on you that stops the bleeding, right? It stops your blood from going into your arm, and then they can draw blood, causes your blood vessels to inflate. Tourniquet, you are mauled by a bear, you put tourniquet on your leg to stop the bleeding. Well, how well does tissue live without blood? Not good, not good at all. And so the tissue of her tail died. And that happened very, very quickly, because remember, how long can you live without oxygen? About 3 minutes, and this was several days. So I ended up, I fell in love with her. She's just a little kitten. She was probably only about 10 weeks old at the time. And she's just very sadly, looking. You guys have done your tabby colors, right? All right, so here you go. She was a gray mackerel tabby with white, mitted, and booted. Right? She was a Siamese mix, so she was a moderate body type, traditional body type. And she just curled up, and her poor little dead tail and her scored up ears. Her ears were all scored up. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to take her. I'm going to adopt her. And so we called the owner and said, look, here's the deal. You can either, we'll report you for putting her in the microwave, which legally we couldn't have done anyway, or you can give her to this technician. And we amputated her tail. So she was a traumatic rumpy riser. So she was what we call a traumatic Manx. Manx means no tail. Typical Manx means they're bred for no tail. Traumatic Manx means we've been amputated. And she was a rumpy riser, so she had about that much tail. She thought she had a very long cat-like tail because she thought she was whipping it in a very cat-like manner. But she's really just wagging her nub. She still had scars on her ears. And when you get into veterinary medicine, you're going to notice, okay, we do develop kind of an odd sense of humor. And you are going to typically call animals by their condition. You might have 4 animals in the back named Fluffy. So if I say to you, hey, go grab Fluffy, you'll be like, well, which one? But if I say to you, go grab the heartworm dog, then you know. And so we started calling her the Toshiba cat, because she didn't have a name when she came in. She was no name. And so we started calling her the Toshiba cat, kind of as a sick joke, because I don't know if the Toshiba was the brand of microwave, but that's what we call her. And it stuck, and her name became Toshiba. And I took her home, and that's when her real colors came out. She was not this shy, adorable, little quiet kitten. She was a destructive, mean old thing from the beginning who would have no volume control. She screamed constantly.
Which is why the kids put them in.
I don't have any idea. She destroyed a whole bunch of sound equipment, $15,000 worth of sound equipment. So yeah, so she was my companion for about almost 19 years. The reason why I bring her up is because she started drinking a lot of water. Does anyone know a condition that can be caused by drinking a lot of water? Or not caused by, is a symptom. Drinking a lot of water is a symptom.
Diabetes.
Yeah, diabetes. Cats and diabetes, peanut butter and jelly. At that time, she's a nearly 17-year-old cat. Am I really going to put her on an insulin regimen? No. I'm going to make sure her water bowl's full. Well, it turned out, so I'm looking for her, and she had her own room in my house. It was a dog-free zone. And I go in, and she's just laying on the floor very quietly, and that was not Tosh. And the minute I got into the room, what did I smell? Fruity. And I was like, oh. So I took her in. We did some blood work just to see. Guess what, guys? Her blood glucose was totally normal. The kidney enzymes were off the chart, couldn't even be read. So she was drinking water because her kidneys had been failing. Because the body is saying, hey, we need to filter out these toxins. The toxins are accumulating in my blood. We need to dilute these. Drink more water. So she was drinking large volumes of water because she'd been going into kidney failure that whole time. So it's the fruity smell, ketone body. See how I bring it back? Brought it back around the cul-de-sac. You guys thought I was off on some weird tangent. Nope, brought it back.
Starting to trust you.
Here's the pH scale. The pH scale ranges from 1 to 14. Lower numbers are more acidic. So here we have a 0. And that 0 is, I know you can't read here, but I'll explain. The 0 is hydrochloric acid. So the lower the number, the more acidic it is. The higher the number, the more basic it is.
You know how I have the videos and it says like all different types of water, different water.
Yeah, so they're checking the pH of the water. And the lower the number, the more acidic it is. This is going to be a really important concept. I am going to put this on your test as a question. Might be true and false, could be multiple choice. I might list out 4 numbers and ask which of these is the most acidic. Or I might do a true and false that says the pH of 2 is the very, very basic pH. Well, obviously that would be false. So we want to stick right here middle, about neutral. In fact, our blood, as I said, is a little bit more basic than neutral. It's about 7.4. So it's very, very close to neutral.
I have a question.
Yes.
So if you do a P test for your pH, and you've heard of that, right?
Yeah, that's how you do your analysis.
Okay, so I was just wondering, like, is the pH based on, well, I guess obviously, but it was, I mean, I felt like the range is larger than 7.35 to 7.
No, 7.35 to 7.45 is the typical range of blood.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Blood and urine, 2 different bodies.
Okay.
The pH of urine can vary. And when you guys do urinalysis, one of the things you are going to look for is the pH, because we have things like crystals and stones, bladder stones. Some crystals are more likely to form in an acidic pH, others more likely to form in a basic pH. And so by determining the pH of the urine, you can then help yourself in identifying what type of crystals are possible. So yeah, the pH of urine has a very, very big range. pH of blood does not. Then we have this stuff called buffers. And what a buffer does is it helps to neutralize the pH. It helps keep it in a neutral. An example of a buffer would be, I don't know if this translates. Have you ever heard of having a sour stomach? Where you eat something and it just sits there heavy in your stomach, and your stomach is producing large amounts of acid, and you burp and it hurts, you get heartburn. So what do? You take a Tums, you take some Pepto. What that is a buffer. Maybe you take a Cimetidine, which is a Tagamet. You take some Pepcid, which is famotidine. What that is a buffer that helps neutralize the pH of the stomach. Give you guys a minute while you're furiously writing. There's an animal that has a naturally, well, we all have naturally occurring buffers like we do in our saliva every time you swallow, because the danger is that your esophagus is not protected from that acid like your stomach is. We have an animal called a polygastric animal. Example would be a cow. Poly meaning many, stomachs. And so what happens with the cows is that they eat grass and it bounces back and forth between the 2 cranial stomach chambers, and then they regurgitate it. Regurgitation is different than vomit. Regurgitation is just where you burp and you get that fun, meaty surprise at the end. Usually re-chew it, swallow it back down. Come on, we've all done it. We've all done it. We've all swallowed a verb. It happens. But cows are meant to regurgitate. And the problem, though, is just like with us, as they regurgitate, they might have some of that stomach acid bubble up into their esophagus. Well, they're regurgitating all the time. And how do they not get an ulcer or a perforation in that esophagus? Because of the buffer in their saliva. They have a buffer called sodium bicarbonate, which is Tums, essentially, and they produce a massive amount of saliva. Let me tell you how massive. On average, how much saliva do you think you guys produce in a day?
3 tablespoons.
Probably a little bit more than that. I would say maybe half a liter. Cows, 20 to 25 gallons. Think of the gallon jug of milk that you're getting at the grocery. How long would it take you to fill that up if you spit into it every time you needed to spit? Days. Days and days. They're producing 20 to 25 of those every 24 hours. So they're constantly putting buffer into their esophagus, constantly neutralizing that environment so they don't get the esophageal ulcerations. So those of you that are interested in large animal medicine, cows are delicious, but boy, are they gross. They are. Here's our organic molecules. We have our carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. Nucleic acids are a type of protein, a type of amino acid that forms your DNA, as well as your RNA. Again, we're not going to go into too much detail. We're just going to do a howdy handshake to each of these.
I can't read the smaller.
I'm going to be going through each of these individually.
So that's not nucleic acid. Where's nucleic acid? Oh, okay.
Carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, nucleic acids. So our carbohydrates, again, this is all nutrition. So we're going to do an entire 8-week class of nothing but this. That's why we're just doing a quick handshake. Carbohydrates are sugars. And sugars can be bonded together. You have a single molecule sugar like monosaccharide. Mono meaning one, saccharide meaning sugar. An example of this would be glucose. Glucose is the currency your body uses to pay everybody, keep them working. Everybody gets paid. I can take these simple monosaccharides and I can bond them together. That would be a disaccharide. And then I can take multiple single sugars and bond them together. Polysaccharides. Probably terms that you've heard before. Those of you who are lactose intolerant, anybody in here lactose intolerant? Oh, you're the only one, you poor thing. And you know what's funny is that the people who crave dairy the most are the people who can't have it. My sister's lactose intolerant. I've never known anybody who craved ice cream like she does ever in my life. Crazy.
I am too, and I love cereal. It's miserable.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. So give you a little basic idea, again, real world application of this stuff that we're learning. Disaccharide, I have here 2 sugar molecules bonded together. Now the thing is with our bodies, I need to break that bond before I can use anything. All of these are going to be like Legos. And in order for my body to use anything, I got to break apart the Legos so that it's only a single Lego. The problem is with you is you can't break this bond, which means I can't use this molecule. And what does your body do with stuff it doesn't use? Gets rid of it. And it's the body's decision of how dangerous this molecule might be that determines what kind of symptoms you're going to get. So for our lactose intolerant, dogs and cats also lactose intolerant, right? Don't be feeding your dogs a lot of cheese. Don't be feeding your cats that saucer of milk. So on the one hand, that comes down into the small intestines, and your small intestines is treating it like a Rubik's Cube. And it's desperate. I want to break this bond. I want to break this bond. Everything else we're supposed to be pulling apart is now just sitting on the table waiting and rotting. And it's developing bacteria, it's developing gas. So on the mild form of lactose intolerance, you get gassy, bloaty, farty. Or on the other end of the spectrum, your small intestines may look at this lactose and go, oh my God, I think this might be Ebola. And it passes it on, and your jejunum's like, whoa, and then you, hey, ileum, and ileum's like, oh my God, colon, get rid of this right now. And your colon goes, okay, and turns himself into a slip and slide, and out goes the lactose.
Why did that happen?
So corn is a complex carbohydrate. Corn is a fiber, and actually your colon really loves corn. Your colon just thrives on fiber. But there's a whole other thing about corn. In fact, if you put a pin in that, because we're almost out of time, I will explain to you why you eat corn and then you poop corn and it doesn't look like you've done anything with the corn. I'll explain that to you tomorrow. Because I actually know, I have a plethora of useless knowledge, guys. A plethora of useless knowledge.
Miss Huff,
Yes.
Steph, she's in the Zoom. She said she's still listening to the lecture, but she doesn't feel good and she's throwing up.
Oh dear. That's not good at all. Well, I hope she feels better. All right, so here's just some terminology that we'll end with. Glycoprotein. We all know glyco means what? Sugar. Protein is a protein. So these carbohydrates can bond with other nutrients. And then these are two words we're going to be using over and over and over. Anabolism means to build up. Catabolism, cata, down, under, against, to break down. The way I remember this is if you have a sports person who wants to get great big muscles, what kind of steroids might they illegally give themselves? Anabolic steroids. Anabolism. I'm not giving myself anabolic steroids so I can lose muscle mass. I'm doing it so I can build myself up. So that's how I remember anabolism is to build up. Catabolism is to break down. When I put all of those carbohydrates into my storage unit and those fats, I anabolized myself. Now that I'm back on an exercise regime, I am catabolizing myself. All right, time flies and we are having fun. Do I have any comments, questions, concerns about anything we've gone over today? How about you guys in TV land? You guys, I won't take it down yet if you're so furiously writing.
So tomorrow, do we put our scrubs on?
Yeah, tomorrow I would love it if you would wear your scrubs. We might even come in and take some pictures of you in your new scrubs. It's always very exciting because you're officially members of the VTI family now. It's official. You are my minions. Do my bidding for the rest of your life. Yeah, you are my minions. That's an exciting day. So yes, please wear your scrubs tomorrow. And if they don't fit, you can just wear what you have been wearing, and we will get you the contact information. All right, so we'll end it here. You guys in TV land, I'll see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. And you guys in my live studio audience,